Greetings. We are delighted to interact with you in this way, and we thank you for being in this now with us. On the current subject, we are reluctant to use the word reincarnation because there is a lot of baggage that comes along with exactly that word. However, the general concept is solid. You do, in fact, most people, almost nobody dips into physical reality. Almost nobody dips into the now only once. Addictive is too strong a word to use, but it is the closest word we can find in this moment to describe the experience of time-space reality. If you can imagine floating through the air in a jet airplane at high altitude, that is a peaceful experience of looking out your window at the ground below. The landscape doesn't even appear to move below you because you are so far above it, even though you are in fact moving at hundreds of miles an hour, if not faster than the speed of sound. That is our perspective. It is not the best analogy, but that is close to our perspective of you experiencing physical reality. Now, imagine putting that same jet on the ground, going the same speed, and experiencing the friction of the wheels against the earth and the sound and vibration and the rate at which the landscape passes by your window, all of the extreme sensory input that you would experience. That is similar to what it is like experiencing time-space reality through a physical body. It is an exhilarating experience. So, yes, you do experience multiple physical lives, and they are, for the most part, sequential in what you call linear time. However, there can be overlap between the various experiences. For example, for one who was born in 1950 and dies in the year 2000, their quote-unquote next life could be from 1990 to 2060. When you decide to incarnate into the physical or to dip into the now, where you end up is determined by the universal fact of attraction or law of attraction. For one who dies in the year 2000, their overall harmonic resonance matches up with the overall resonance of time-space reality at that point more than at, say, the year 1600. Worldwide instantaneous communication, instantaneous light or heat at the effort level of flipping a switch, orbiting satellites. There are expectations and familiarity of living for one who has just left the year 2000 that do not sync up with the experiences of the years 1600, for example. It is the overall harmonic of the vibration that is the overriding factor in how fact of attraction places you in time-space reality. So, your lives are, for the most part, sequential in what you call linear time, but there is often overlap. From our perspective, time is more of a geographical concept than a temporal concept. What we want to add is that you do not dip into the now for the purpose of learning lessons. While you do end up learning from each experience, that is not the purpose of the experience. You come to create. You live in creation, and by that we mean that as you coalesce together, all of you together playing off each other, the new is formed. We believe that many of you would be shocked at how similar our experience of reality is to yours. Everything that you experience as physical reality is the interpretation of wave fronts collapsing against you. And we also experience collapsing waves, and we also interpret them as walls, tables, chairs. The waves we interpret are faster moving, but we are also vibrating faster. When we desire to sit down, for example, a chair is simply there out of our expectation. But until those of you walking around in physical bodies had, for example, invented or created reclining chairs, we did not expect and therefore did not experience reclining chairs. The concept and the fact of them were brought into being there in time-space reality, there in creation where you currently are focused. You are eternal in nature, since the time portion of time-space reality is a quirk of that dimension. For the eternal, what is new is the most desired experience from the perspective of those who are aware of their eternal nature. Lastly, what we want to say on the subject of karma and punishments and rewards is this. It is possible, and it is often the case, that in general terms, we will give an extreme example. Those who torture others in one life often do return in another experience to be tortured, and vice versa, but it has nothing to do with punishment or revenge. Torturing and being tortured are two sides of the same vibrational experience, and it is the similarity of vibration that, in this example, causes the repeated physical experience from both sides. You are all creators, and one of the reasons you end up incarnating or dipping into the now as humans rather than other forms of life is because your true nature at this point in your experience, at this point in your existence, is one who sends out causality waves, one who sends out waves of creation that are specific and complex in their nature. The causality waves of, for example, the animals of your time-space reality are much simpler and straightforward, very general desires, lacking in complexity.